Good morning, YouTube. Flank Hollow here, and today, justice will be served, because we are talking about law enforcement in Equestria. Most people, or I guess ponies, understand common human niceness, for lack of a better word. There is a universal, unwritten code of ethics that most everyone understands. Unfortunately, there always tends to be people who decide those standards don't exist and they become jerks. Thus, rules and regulations must be put in place, but people will still feel obligated to break those as well. So in order to make sure these rules get followed, we have law enforcers, or cops if you want to call it that. But if you have lived on Earth for, ever, then you probably already know that. In our reality, police officers are a common sight in developed countries, and their job is to keep the peace. Well, considering a few members of the pony population have been shown to be jerks and break that ethical code, should we not assume that Equestria also has some laws? It seems like it would be a given fact. Well, great. The ponies have laws and they follow them and everyone is happy. There's still scams, stealing, lying, violence. Problems are literally everywhere. So with all these jerks running around, there surely is some nice ponies to keep everyone in check, just like before. No, there isn't. You may be confused by that statement. Surely there's some pony being hired by the government to do this important job. The thing is, none have actively been shown. There was in fact Mr. Sheriff Silverstar, but he actually acted more of a mayor of Appaloosa than an actual law enforcer. Like how during the Equestria Games he was in that little box full of otherworld leaders and town leaders and mayors. He was also shown to be basically the decision maker for Appaloosa in Over a Barrel. So while he probably does help out in his own town, they all kind of help themselves in the same town. But then again in that episode, you know what, that probably isn't important. Another thing you're probably thinking is, hey idiot, don't you know there's a royal guard? The thing is that they don't actually do any policing. They guard the princess. By that I mean they try to guard the princess because so far they have completely sucked at guarding. It's literally their only job. Besides that, they just do the princess's biddings. Bring refreshing drinks, deliver pretty messages, or whatever. Wow, I literally just realized that the Royal Guard is the most useless establishment in Equestria. Gosh. But to the topic at hand, the Royal Guard only show up when, well, royals show up. They don't actually do any policing, so don't ask them for help if someone steals your sweet roll. At this moment, I would also like to point out the comics. In editions number 21 and 22, apparently the police do in fact show up. They are ready to make arrests and, enforce the law. So until I get to that point, just shh. Besides that moment, there have only been one real way of a higher government doing anything for punishment. That has been with the main villains. They have been banished, imprisoned, killed. Whoa, crap. Pony death sentence. Lovely. Those were usually on the bidding of Sunbutt herself, though. They were all major problems that had to be dealt with immediately. But what about the Little League jerks? How are they getting punished? It's kind of funny actually. Every jerk that has shown up, even if they break an assumed law, just get away free. Well, I guess you could say free. The only thing they really lose from any of their actions is face. Their reputation is the only thing that gets damaged and they get no actual physical punishment. Is that even doing anything? Well, kinda. You see, in a world revolving around friendship, harmony, and just being social, losing that connection can be a very bad thing. The most obvious example is Trixie. After all her lying in her first appearance, word spread and she was slandered. She became unable to get work and everything sucked. If anything, she was over-punished for such a simple thing. And guess what? Not a single judge, officer, or jail was involved. Then if you keep thinking about it, the only thing that ever happens to the minor antagonists is that they get drove out of town or kicked out of a club. Whenever someone breaks the understood ethics, the social karma takes care of them. And if you want another example of how ponies solve problems on their own, think back to Mystery on the Friendship Express. When a crime occurred, the ponies took care of it themselves. No higher force helped. This is why I believe that ponies don't primarily use a police force. Instead, they find a solution on their own. Wow, actually thinking about this, they should save a ton on taxes. Oh hey, they're still funding that Royal Guard. However, that only seems to be the case on minor situations, as when an individual who is truly harmful and doesn't care about being social shows up, they end up getting punished more actively and severely, as we said before. Now going back to that whole comic thing, yes, a police force does in fact show up. In Manhattan. Well, we went to Manhattan before. We found that the people there were kind of more jerky than others. Many of them were rude and selfish, and Rarity ended up being the nicest person in that whole city. So my little explanation of why police people might be there is that maybe the cool pwn to bad pwn ratio is not good enough for social punishment to work. Because of this, they simply have to have at least some police force over there. Or maybe they just show up when something really big, but not too big happens. Like a giant diamond getting stolen, like they did in the comic. So yeah, they apparently do exist, they're just selective on what they do and where they do it. So I guess no pony really takes up the mantle though. Superheroes are but fiction in this world, so I guess no one is willing to... Wait. Remember in Appaloosa when apparently the sheriff was helping and all that? Didn't the main six try to help? I say try because, you know, they still went to war, but that's besides the point. You see in all these situations that I've brought up where people are getting socially punished, at least some of the main six were present. Even in the comics, guess who was there to protect the innocent pony who was being falsely accused? That's right, part of the main six. And to make things even more valid, they are in fact the ones who stopped the villains. So in other words, wait, this whole time I've been saying there's no law enforcers, but are the main six the law enforcers? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, yeah, basically. Well, not officially. So in other words, the main six, the Friendship Council or whatever, is the justice. They are the equalizers, the do-gooders. They have become the protectors of Equestria, and that is amazing. If you think back to the first episodes when they were having fights over who gets a ticket, now they're going on journeys to help out Equestria and save others. While it was kinda like that from the very beginning in the pilots, it was never their true intention. This truly shows the development that all of them have taken over the course of the show, and that makes me happy. But now that I've only re-emphasized what some of you have probably already thought of, what does this mean about anything? Well, think about it. Everybody just sits back and lets the main six take care of, well, everything. They have a castle, they have blown crap up on multiple occasions. Can you really blame them? But could the citizens of Equestria become too reliant on them? When crap goes down, they immediately look to them. Before that, I'm assuming they looked up to Luna and Celestia. This makes me have a hope of some sort for the upcoming Season 5. I hope that they will bring up this idea of every pony looking up to the main six to solve everything. They kinda had this ideal in Rainbow Rocks with Twilight, but this could be on a bigger scale. Like, whenever any sort of rule breaker or friendship problem occurs, they'll immediately go to the main six. Then when the main six has to leave to do whatever, politics or something, then they leave Ponyville alone. Then something more major occurs and they have no enforcement to stop it. This episode that I'm thinking could be the background pony episode that they were talking about. It will include specific ponies having to fix a problem without the main six's help, and will in turn help others to be more self-reliant in Ponyville. This could be on a larger Equestria scale, or just with Ponyville, it's up to them, I guess. This episode could even go into developing the chosen ponies into being their peacekeepers. Because now, the old enforcers, the main six, have a lot more responsibilities, and they can't really keep up with all this extra minor things. I think that doing this would introduce an amazing dynamic to the show, especially if it kept going on in the later episodes and seasons. I think that it would be a cool idea. I don't know if they're gonna do it or something similar, but I personally think it would be a cool thing. Sorry for that long tangent at the end, but inspiration hit. So in conclusion, normal small-town pony society doesn't have that much of a developed police force. Instead, it relies on more powerful ponies to protect them from the bigger threats, and their own social community to solve the smaller ones. But there's still an opportunity to change that and have more developed police force with some of the characters still being there. I don't know, that's more or less my take on the matter. Tell me what you think in the comments below, like and subscribe if you want to see more. I do analysis on Tuesday, and I may be doing other stuff in the future on unscheduled days, hopefully. Whatever, I'm Flank Hollow, and remember, I put the anal into analysis.
Somebody call 911! Shorty fire burning on the dance floor. Whoa!